Hey YouTube, how are you? Hey guys, what up? Tominator here, and I know many of you have been asking me to do a review of the 1992 Mr. O, so here it comes, let's go. Alright, and first off, I gotta apologize for taking so long with this one. I know I promised it a while ago, but I was trying to do it even a couple weeks ago, but the thing is, with 1992, I think the camera had just been invented a year or two before that, so there was very little picture and video footage of this contest of any quality, and finding pictures was incredibly difficult, even if you go to like official websites like Muscle Time where they have all the previous like Olympias from the 90s and stuff. You go on there and like every picture is taken from a shitty angle, and it's basically useless for judging purposes. You go on YouTube and yeah, there's good posing routine footage, but that's not that helpful for comparing the guys. And the prejudging footage that they have is not of the best quality. I was thinking about using it nonetheless, but anytime you paused, it would just get blurry as hell. And the camera kept like spazzing and like panning around and not showcasing guys properly, only zooming in on their upper body and stuff. So at the end of the day, I just decided to go with some pictures. I cobbled together the best ones I could find and threw them in here for you. So that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to go through a bunch of slides. Yeah, so first up, I just want to show you the top 6 in the front double bicep. Again, this is what I'm talking about. This is one of the better pictures, guys, and it's basically crap compared to what you can find nowadays. But anyway, 1992, no HD, what can you do? So what jumps out to me immediately is this little dude right here in the middle, Momo Benaziza. He looks really good in this pose. And, you know, it's probably jumping out because he's in the middle of the picture, number one, but also he's kind of facing more head-on with the camera, whereas all these guys are kind of angled away slightly. So that's going to help make him look more impressive. Also at the midsection, you know, he's one of the only guys here flexing his abs, so that kind of extra detail draws the eye. I guess Vince Taylor's doing it too, but, you know, even though he looks decent in this pose, make no mistake about it, this guy was soft as a bar of soap this contest, especially when he turned around and hit those back shots. So, yeah, he was a distant 6th. For him to be up here with these other 5 guys was pretty much a formality, I think. It was just because that's the way they always do it, is they bring out the top 6. But, yeah, he was lucky to even be standing up here amongst these fellows. Yeah, notice he's wearing an eye patch. Well, is this guy a pirate? Is he trying to be Slick Rick? Well, apparently I had to look into that when I saw him. Like, what the hell is he doing with an eye patch here? So the story apparently was he got hit in the eye with a strap from his luggage, you know, pulling it down from the overhead compartment. I don't know if it was a bus or a plane, but that's apparently what happened there. So interesting little story, but he's kind of a non-factor here. I'm not going to be paying too much attention to him. Back to Benaziza. Guy was like a mini mass monster, right? He had these really good wheels for the time, pretty massive arms, really good back thickness. So you can't see it here, obviously, but when they turn around, you'll see in a sec. And yeah, he looks really good in the front double bicep here. Here's a close-up of him versus Dorian, and it's just no contest. He's whooping him. But the problem with Benaziza, he took 5th, actually, in this contest. And after I went back and reviewed, you know, the video footage and other pictures and stuff, even though this guy looked really impressive in certain poses like this one and in terms of the back development and stuff, I do agree with that decision. I think that he placed as low as he did because he had a number of flaws that kind of held him back. This being one, looks like a little bit of swelling. You know, what is this, some breast tissue? You need a training bra? Looks like some gyno going on, but unless my eyes are deceiving me. So his pecs looked a little funny in certain poses and certain positions, like this one right here. Even though the abs look solid in this shot, they were actually pretty distended and bloated compared to the rest of the guys. And also, his posing just kind of sucked, you know. In certain poses like this one, he looks fine, but from the side, like in the side chest, the side tricep, the ab and thigh, he didn't look good. So that's the deal with that guy. That's why he placed so low. But just to showcase the back, I'm going to get into Dorian versus Kevin in a second, but I just wanted to go through these first. So look at the back thickness on the dude, though, man. Very impressive. I think at this stage in Dorian's career, he was actually lagging behind Benaziza in terms of the thickness. True, Benaziza's kind of arching his back more than Yates, like kind of crunching down on those lower lats. creating this illusion of having more thickness down here. If Dorian wasn't standing upright, if he was doing the same thing, best believe this would look closer than it does right now. But then again, in the lower body department, I think Dorian's beating him pretty soundly, and especially in the calves, and he's absolutely just literally dwarfing him. I mean, look, it's like a head taller, so all that extra skeletal structure he's got to work with allows him to pack on so much more mass than this dude. So, but in the back double bicep, he measured up well. True, he's closer to the camera here, but not by much. You can see the crazy thickness that he had going on. I think he might have even taken the back double bicep pose. But Dorian looked really solid in it as well. Just tons of thickness and detail everywhere, all the way from the traps to the lower back, down into the waist. Right, he always had a good lower back. Sean Ray, same thing. Lots of detail, lots of grooves we're seeing. Really separated arms and shoulders. And then we go to Levrone. And ooh, big fall off here. Big drop in quality from these other three guys in this pose. He doesn't have really anything to speak of in the lower half of his back. His upper half of his back is also lagging behind in terms of thickness and detail compared to the rest of these guys. True, Levrone is furthest away from the camera. That's going to make him look less favorable, but still, I mean, we'll see later in other pictures that he just didn't measure up well in the back poses. And that was really his Achilles heel this show. So, again, a close-up, though, comparing Benaziza to Yates, and I find this comparison pretty favorable for this little guy. Dorian was definitely really good in this pose, even at this point in his career, before he really piled on all that mass in 1993. But I feel like Benaziza just looks thicker, man. So, that's all that's up with him. Let's move on to the real comparison between the number 2 and the number 1 in the show. So Yates versus Levrone. This is one of the better pictures, and as you can see, it's not very good. You don't get to even see the lower body, but yeah, I mean, Levrone in the side chest pose, this is one of, if not his strongest pose, along with that most muscular that he's known for, of course. So yeah, I think he's beating Dorian pretty easily here in the upper body anyway, because that's all we can see. His pecs just look much fuller and better. The delts look better. The arms, especially the triceps, look much bigger and fuller. He's just more structurally suited to the pose, I think. And even here, at this stage in his career, he's not even hitting the pose super effectively. Like, this shoulder is way too high up compared to this one. So in later years, he would correct this, and this shoulder would be lowered, so they were more parallel, and that also produced the effect of extra width. Right now, he looks a little bit scrunched. He's not really even hitting the pose optimally. But I still think he's better than Dorian in it, because Dorian wasn't very good in this pose. I know I said in one of my other reviews, I think it was the 95 Mr. Olympia, where I was comparing these two again, and I gave the pose to Dorian. Well, that was just because, I don't know, man, that one picture, it was just had favorable lighting for Yates. Don't get it twisted, man. Of course, Levrone is better in the side chest than Dorian. But yeah, in this one, I'm definitely giving it to Levrone. Yeah, Dorian's pecs just look weird, man. Like, this one's like a weird little triangle thing. What? Like, what? Like, he just looks much better. Next pose, though. So this is where things kind of turn around for Levrone, because he just gets whooped from the back poses. So this is actually closer than it looks here, because the lighting was really good in this show, and I don't know if it was like if they stood in a certain spot on the stage, or if it was just like when the camera was from a certain distance or angle, but it made these guys look so ripped, and you could pick out every little detail. So Levrone's back is looking better than it probably actually was, as we'll see from some other photos. But even still, Dorian's beating him. What I will say about Levrone is, man, he was ripped this show. He really was, because, I mean, look at the lower body, striated glutes. These hamstrings have more grooves than a vinyl record. I mean, just really impressive details you're seeing on the guy. The arms were completely shredded, fully separated through the delts as well. But Dorian, man, I just feel like his back is just undeniably better. See now, I mean, same guy, same contest, but where did all the detail go in the back? It looks much smoother now, much less thick, not picking out as many details anymore, and Dorian's just obliterating him. In this kind of Superman pose, they both did this one in their posing routines, and what jumps out to me on Levrone is the delts. Holy cow, man, these things are gargantuan. But kind of like what I was saying recently about Dallas McCarver is these delts are a little bit too overpowering, and it makes the back look relatively weak in comparison. So that was an area that Kevin really needed to address and bring up. And he did do that to a large degree. I mean, keep in mind, this was his very first Mr. Olympia, the 1992. So he was very green. He was a rookie, and he hadn't had time to bring up weak points yet. So he was pretty much coasting on his genetic strengths, which were his shoulders, his traps. His wheels at this point in his career were much better, and just his overall lines and fullness and stuff. But he hadn't had time to bring up his weak points like his back. So Dorian, on the other hand, had been competing for a number of years already, and he had more full development as a result. You can see how much more balanced he looks compared to Levrone, how much more impressive this back is compared to this one. I mean, it's just night and day, no contest. Again, these guys are comparable from the lower body, though. I will give Levrone a lot of credit for his conditioning in this show. He looked amazing. But Dorian, is just in another class when it comes to the back development. And he was very proportioned, very well balanced this year. So this was before he had that bicep tear. So I believe it was this left one, right? This was the one he tore. So, he had both arms intact. And they were more balanced with the rest of his body at this point because he hadn't, in later years, his back, he'd continued to grow and grow and grow his back, but his arms would kind of regress, and then he also had that tear, so it made them look asymmetrical and even worse compared to that back. And then, the gut continued to kind of get bigger and bigger as he went along, too, so his proportions got all thrown out of whack. But back in 1992, the guy was more streamlined, much more aesthetic and balanced, and I feel like it was a very underrated version of Dorian Yates that a lot of people don't appreciate enough, because I think he was really good here. This might even be his best shape next to 1993. But, it's a toss-up between that or 1995, because in 95 he did put on all that extra mass, and he was very well-conditioned that year as well and didn't have too much distension, but he had overall more aesthetic package back in 92 with that more streamlined waist. So again, they're hitting the same pose, and what jumps out to me again is these bolder shoulders of Levrone, but the back looks underwhelming. Whereas with Yates, man, it's this Christmas tree, it's all these super thick traps, and just everything looks very well fully developed. So he's kind of murking Kevin in the same poses, right? So once again, the rear lat spread. It's just lights out with Dorian. Again, Kevin's standing in that flattering spot on the stage, making his back look even better than it probably would have been from different angles. But, I mean, Kevin looks good here. This is probably about as good. And if you go watch the video footage, you can catch like a zoom in of his lat spread. It doesn't look this impressive, I'll tell you right now. So this is a flattering shot for Kevin. This is probably just, run-of-the-mill for Dorian. He's not standing in that magical spot on the stage. And he's still just blowing him out of the water. So I just feel like, if Mr. Olympias are won from the back, then Dorian won this one hands down. Now in this pose, though, I'll give this one to Kevin because, he's got better arm development than Dorian. And, he's this picture's definitely got better lighting, and Dorian's is all blurry, but still, I'm sure Levrone looked better in it. The ab and thigh as well. I'd give him the edge here. He was just a little bit more diced through the midsection. The chest looks better. But for Dorian, it didn't really get much better than this in this twisting ab and thigh shot because his waist was never this slim again. And he's doing it really well too. In the crab most muscular though, this isn't really Kevin's signature most muscular pose. It's not that patented hands clasp version that he always does, but he's still hitting this one pretty well. And he's completely murking Dorian, who looks awkward as fuck in this pose. He's not doing himself any favors by hitting the crab shot because he doesn't have good shoulders or good arms, and that's really what you put on display when you do this pose. Even his chest looks kind of shitty aside from this split through the middle. The traps, I don't know, man. He just doesn't look good. This doesn't look like Mr. Olympia material in this pose, but from all the shots we were just looking at, it's pretty clear to me that he was a deserving Mr. Olympia this year. And let's just quickly go over, some of the other guys before we wrap it up. So, for that third place battle, we had Sean Ray and Leela Brada, and call me biased, right? Because you guys know that I love Sean Ray. He's probably my favorite bodybuilder, right? But just even objectively speaking, I would probably flip-flop these dudes because Lee took third, Sean took fourth. I probably would have had it the other way around, with Sean taking third and Lee in fourth. Why? Because I feel like both guys were really well conditioned, but Sean had the edge in the shape, in the roundness, in the fullness, and even a little bit in terms of the mass. Like his back looks a little bit wider and thicker to me, whereas Lee Labrada had kind of an edge in the conditioning. You know, he was a little bit drier, a little bit harder, and more ripped than Sean. But when you're this well conditioned, as both these guys were, I feel like getting more ripped but sacrificing fullness and being a little flatter is not a worthy trade-off for that extra roundness and fullness that Sean was bringing. So to me, this is just more pleasing to the eye. This is overall more impressive than this. And that's kind of how it went with all these poses. Like ab and thigh, like this is amazing. This is really good stuff from Lee Labrada, but this is pretty much unsurpassed even to this day. So this may well be like the best ab and thigh pose I've ever seen throughout the history of the sport. Like it just doesn't really get much better. Like look how tight his waistline is. The abs are perfectly symmetrical and defined. Serratus is ridiculous. You know, he's got lots of separation in his quads. Even a bit of a V taper going on. Like everything just looks perfect right here in this shot from Sean. So I feel like, man, he kind of got a little bit screwed this contest. I mean, looking as good as he did and only taking fourth, he had to be disappointed with that result. So I couldn't find Lee Labrada hitting most musculars, so I just threw him in some more aesthetic poses because that's what he was really known for and good at. He was a great poser as well. Kind of like Frank Zane, the second coming of that. He had a lot of similarities to that guy, just like a more muscular Frank Zane, because he hit a lot of the same poses, had a lot of the same qualities in terms of the conditioning and the aesthetics, but being a little bit less round and cartoonish muscle and more kind of like, I don't know, not natural looking, but more sculpture-esque maybe and less cartoony, as opposed to guys like Sean Ray or Flex Wheeler who look like comic book characters. But Sean, man, like look at this pose. There's really not much you can even complain about. I mean, the pecs are ridiculously striated, lots of separation here between the traps and the delts, and in the arms, this brachialis is nuts. Vascularity here, really good shape. You can see feathering in the quads. I mean, the only thing that I would ask for is a little bit more, of that trademark roundness and stuff through the delts as well. His shoulders could have been a little bit bigger here, but that's about all I can complain about. And once again, Lee Labrada in this aesthetic pose, Sean Ray in this one. So Lee Labrada looking like Frank Zane all over again, like I was just saying. Really impressive. I don't even have too much of a problem with him taking third over Sean, because he also looked fantastic this show. So I'm not even like, that disappointed or upset about that result. I just personally would have had them their positions reversed. That's all. Yeah, and this is a cool little most muscular. Don't see a lot of guys do this with the hands like that these days. But yeah, the pecs very full, arms look amazing. Just world-class stuff from both these guys. But there could only be one winner, and it wasn't Sean. It wasn't Lee. So this is the top three. And it wasn't Kevin either. So as we all know, Dorian ended up winning this show. And what do I have to say about that? I know some of you guys aren't going to like this because you've probably been, after I said Sean deserved 1994, you're probably expecting some retribution for the Maryland Muscle Machine as well. But I'm sorry, I can't give it to him here. I just can't do it, man. You saw from all those back poses, he got absolutely whooped. And I feel like Dorian this year was highly underrated. No one ever talks about him in 1992 because, maybe he was better in 93, so for sure, but and that kind of like overshadows what he did here, but he brought a really solid package in 1992, and this is one of my more preferred looks for Dorian because he was more aesthetic with that more tapered waistline. I mean, it doesn't look so good here, but compared to how it would look in later years, this is, levels above how he would, become, right? So I just feel like with Levrone, this year, he had a lot of good things going for him. That quad sweep right here, you can see it even here. It looks, it's really good. His wheels were really well developed earlier in his career. They kind of fell off in the later stages, which is a little funny. I'm not sure if he had injuries or whatnot, or maybe just the upper body caught up to such a degree that the legs kind of looked overpowered later on. But whatever it was, regardless, here at this stage, he had really good wheels, really good delts. He was very aesthetic and full, ripped to the bone. But he just didn't have enough of a back to hang with Dorian from the back. So that's what it was. That's where the real difference was. Even in poses like the front lat spread, Dorian was able to beat him because of that extra width through the lats. And, you know, some poses that Kevin was able to win, like the crab, like the most muscular, like the side chest, probably he would have been competitive in the side tricep, although Dorian's very strong in that pose as well. You know, it just wasn't enough, right? When you're lacking that much of a body part as the back, that's an extremely, probably the most important body part, and that was Kevin's greatest weakness. So, no, I don't think he deserved to win. So this is the deal, right? Like, I mean, I think he was almost lucky even to take second, as good as Sean and Lee Labrada came in this year. So. I don't think that second place for a rookie is anything to complain about whatsoever. I think that that's an amazing achievement. I mean, even Phil Heath in his first Olympia only managed to take third. So this is quite the incredible accomplishment that Levrone had, even though he doesn't look very happy about it right here. But, you know, I mean, that's what it was, man. He was just too green. He hadn't had time to bring up that back to match Dorian's. Like, he never really did, mind you, of course, because Dorian would only continue to get better in the back department. And as much as Kevin Levrone brought it up, he just didn't have the genetics for it, frankly speaking. He was able to bring up his width a lot, but never had the same level of thickness that Dorian was bringing. So, you know, I kind of wanted to say, yeah, Kevin deserved this one, because he looked amazing, right? No doubt, he looked amazing. His posing routine was exquisite. He looked incredible, great conditioning, very aesthetic. But, you know, Dorian was just better. So, and I'm not being biased, you know, like, or not trying to. I'm trying to be objective as much as I can be, because if I was being biased, I would have said, yeah, Kevin deserved it, because Kevin Levrone is my, like, third favorite bodybuilder. After Sean Ray and Flex Wheeler, right? So I definitely like him more than Dorian, but I gotta admit Dorian deserved this one. So that's what's up. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what your opinions are on this one. And yeah, sorry this one took so long, but until next time, guys, I'm the Tominator signing off. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more. But until then, I'll be back.